Hello there, math fans. This video is from my 126 students in the spring of 2025. But this part is really for anyone. Anyone who takes an exam, things don't go well, or maybe it goes okay, and you want to reflect on how the exam went. I think there's a few key questions. I have this little survey that I have my students complete. And for my students, I'm going to open this survey and then I'm going to release a video about each page of the exam. I want to say that none of this is meant to be negative. It always comes off as more negative than I want. If the exam didn't go well for you, or you thought you studied well and it didn't go well, I'm not going to criticize any of that. I just want us to be open to reflecting. It's a hard thing to do. A lot of times you don't even want to look at your exam because you're upset about it. I think this is more important than the exam itself or even the course, is this moment of reflection. Like, what can I do differently? How can I adjust? So I will go through each page. As I go through the page, I'll look at some old homework. I'll look at old exams and kind of say, this is where you would have seen it in your studying. Again, that always comes off as negative. That's not the goal here. The goal is, no matter how everyone did, you can watch my video on grades and I will explain how you can still do well in the course. But if exam one didn't go well, then we want to reflect on that. Okay. And me too. I'm reflecting on it. So anyways, it'll go like this. So I do this for the first exam in all my courses. You will have a link to a page, a video for each page, where I'll spend about 10 minutes on a page looking at, explaining the questions again, looking at where something similar. I'll have a video, this video will be posted here, about the exam, and then I'll also have a video about grades. So I have a bunch of little things you can check out, but this is a key part. It's really this one main question, which, what surprised you about the test? I want you to take this seriously. Sometimes students just write kind of angry things at me, and I just would like to remove that. Remember, everyone took the same test. If a question was, because sometimes students tend to focus on the question they missed or the question you thought was unfair, and they don't look at the rest of their test where they were graded more lightly. And so look at your entire test, not just the one specific thing. And a lot of times people here say, well, I just made a bunch of silly mistakes. Try to be a little more specific. What surprised you? When you sat down, how did it feel different? Try to encapsulate that here, because that's something it's good to put some words to. Okay? Just be honest. This is for you. I will read these. I won't share them with anyone else, but I'll read them. So just think about that. I think that's an important question to sit down and write about. And then you can try to attribute your mistakes. Most people here say time pressure, or a question looks different. Try to remove the words of blame about the exam or what it looks. Maybe I am to blame for some things, but try to be objective if you can. And then I'll have a question where I go through, and this is the part where students get kind of mad, and I don't know how to do this, but I feel like I need to do this. So what I do is I go through and I tell you where I got some of the questions. So I went through my recent exams. I like to go through just my 2 most recent exams and find things that are similar, because I find that in doing that, I'm like, okay, if someone studied the 2 most recent exams, what would they definitely have been ready for? And so that's informative, because if you miss some of these things and you thought you did study the 2 most recent exams, then there's a disconnect that you can try to find. And this is just stuff to read to. It's not worth anything. And then I went through and I looked at, when I write the exam, I look at the way I write an exam is I open up the homework, I scan through all of it, I open up the past exams, I think about what I taught. Sometimes I make a little outline to get started, and then I write the exam. I always feel like if I use the same words from a homework question, that's fair because you've seen it already. I found over the years that sometimes those are the questions that people miss. So for example, there was a question about 2 points at the opposite side of a diameter. I stole that wording directly from the homework. Students told me that was one of the hardest questions on the test, and the wording is what bothered them. So that's a good opportunity to go back and look at that homework and say, okay, and part of it is just, things just happen. That was a homework question from the first week. We had a couple questions that was the intersection of 2 curves. So I try to, wherever possible, note particular things, and then you just want to think about how you might want to adjust. I find doing this, just doing this in itself, helps people do better in the course because they've spent whatever it is, half an hour, whatever it takes you to do this, just objectively thinking about what am I going to do moving forward. And even if you don't make changes, you'll be thinking about this as you do the next homework, the next time you study. And just this time, I find, helps things. So tell me what you think about this. This is something I've been doing for, I don't know, 10 years. I don't, I don't have particular data on. I haven't had time to do data on particularly what this does, but I feel like what I want for my students is for them to be more successful as college students and reach their goals. So I feel like this is worth it to have one of these. So let me know what you think. I will follow up with several short videos about the exam pages itself.